things aren't looking too good between the number one racer in the world, Max Verstappen, and his team, Red Bull. There are now even reports that Verstappen will not renew his contract with Red Bull. Let's take a closer look at Verstappen, Red Bull, and why he might have just left it. Max's contract with Red Bull. Max Verstappen in 2015 became the youngest driver ever to win in an official Formula One race. He was given a chance to compete by Red Bull Racing, one of the leading teams in F1. Since then, Red Bull and Verstappen have had a pretty healthy relationship, with Verstappen winning them more than a few races, especially in 2021. However, back when Verstappen first started driving for Red Bull, he was just a kid that didn't really have any experience or notoriety. Today, Max is the number one ranked racer in Formula One, even beating out certified legends like Lewis Hamilton on more than a few occasions. Now Max's contract with Red Bull is set to last until 2023. Considering he signed the contract in 2020, back when his career still wasn't at the level it is right now, he's probably not earning nearly as much money as he should be, considering he's the best racer in the world right now. It seems like Max Verstappen definitely has some leveraging power over Red Bull, especially since his teammate Sergio Perez hasn't been nearly as successful as him throughout the 2021 season. Max could potentially walk out on his contract, as many reporters have already pointed out. But will he? According to Martin Brundle, Verstappen wants the best car that Red Bull Racing can make, and if it isn't enough to help him win the championship, he will leave the team and look elsewhere. If reports about Lewis Hamilton retiring from F1 after this season are true, that would mean Verstappen would be the perfect replacement for Hamilton. The former best racer in the world to be replaced by the new best racer in the world? The story just writes itself. Helmut Marko, a Red Bull motorsport consultant, even confirmed back in February that Max's contract has a performance clause. Basically, this performance clause works both ways. If Max can compete for the championship and win races, his contract will be extended. And if Red Bull as a team can improve its positioning in the rankings, there will be no problem. But Red Bull hasn't improved that much. It still lags behind Mercedes, which has a much more balanced team when compared to Red Bull. However, Marko is very confident that Max has no problem staying with Red Bull. He said that it's in their DNA to win, and that Red Bull will be able to fulfill any clause or concerns that Max might have with them. Despite whatever the speculators might say, Max is actually quite happy with Red Bull. He seems happy with them in post-match interviews, always sings praise of the team, and at the end of the day, if he was unhappy with the team, it would be glaringly obvious. I don't think it would be possible for Max to perform so well this year without the help of Red Bull Racing. As for Red Bull, they're not about to lose their strongest link. If Verstappen needs his contract renegotiated, they're gonna renegotiate it, but they're simply not gonna let him go. Despite being only 22, Verstappen might just receive the biggest pay increase in F1 history after his season, regardless of whether he actually wins the championship or not. But if he does, it's certainly going to be better for him. Is Hamilton leaving Mercedes? As we've mentioned, there are rumors that Lewis Hamilton might also leave Mercedes after the end of this season. Lewis Hamilton is one of the greatest F1 racers of all time. He is tied for the most championship wins in F1 history, as well as the most consecutive championship wins in F1 history. He has won every single F1 championship in 2018, and most recently he won the Qatar Grand Prix and is currently the second highest ranked racer in Formula One, trailing Verstappen by just 8 points. He is still in contention for the championship overall, but regardless of whether he actually wins this race or not, it seems like this is as far as Hamilton goes with his F1 career. Hamilton has admitted that he has thought about retiring from Formula One racing altogether. He is now 36 years old, older than most every other racer that competes with him. More recently, his teammate Valtteri Bottas announced that he would be leaving Mercedes for Alfa Romeo Racing. The two have been teammates since 2017, and they have won Mercedes every single F1 championship since they started racing together, and are set to win them the title this year as well. While Hamilton is too good of a racer to be dependent on a teammate, it's clear that Mercedes does look to lose a lot of value with Bottas's departure from the team. However, earlier this year, Lewis Hamilton signed the most expensive contract of his life, which extended his stay at Mercedes for over 2 years, which sort of dispels the rumors of him actually leaving the team. The Qatar Grand Prix. The 2021 Qatar Grand Prix took place at the Losail International Circuit on November 21st. Prior to this race, Lewis Hamilton had won the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, closing the gap between him and Verstappen a little bit more. Verstappen, who finished second, remained in the lead by 14 points. The qualifying race before the Qatar Grand Prix saw Hamilton win the podium position. Things were looking bright for the Brit as he looked to finally overtake his fiercest rival this season and earn a record-breaking 8th championship. During the main race, Verstappen and Hamilton both had an incredible performance, with Verstappen even having the fastest lap of the whole game, earning an extra point. However, Hamilton took the opportunity of his podium position and ended up winning the race in its entirety, having 25 seconds on Verstappen. This race was just another example of why you can never count Hamilton out. He's considered one of the greatest of all time for a reason. And when there are no technical issues or external issues, Hamilton can beat any racer out there, even if it is the rising Verstappen. The gap between Verstappen and Hamilton was only 14 points before this race. Any victory would have been incredible for Hamilton, and a regular win would have closed that gap to 7 points. If he also managed to get the fastest lap of the race, that gap would have been 6 points. However, since it was Verstappen who got that extra point on top of the 18 points he got for finishing second, the gap is still 8 points. In any regular situation, winning or losing an extra point wouldn't matter much for a racer like Hamilton. But considering he's so close to reaching Verstappen and coming out on top in the leaderboards, those points hurt. Who's going to win? The 2021 Formula One Championship has been one of the most exciting years in the history of the sport. Not only are Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton neck and neck, but so are their teams, Red Bull and Mercedes. Hamilton trails Verstappen by 8 points, while his team Mercedes is ahead of Verstappen by 5 points. The interesting thing about this is that there's no one else who can even compete with them. It's all between these two parties. So, who's actually going to win this tournament overall? It's actually pretty difficult to predict. It's almost a 50-50 split between Red Bull and Mercedes, along with a 60-40 split in favor of Verstappen. Basically, to win the championship this year, Hamilton has to win both the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the 2 races remaining, in which case, even if Verstappen ends up coming in second both times, counting out any fastest laps. If Hamilton wins in Saudi Arabia and Verstappen comes second, Hamilton would have 368.5 points by the end of the race, and Verstappen would have 369.5. Even if Verstappen gets the extra point, it won't matter because the gap would be too small. The champion would be decided at the final race in Abu Dhabi. However, if Verstappen wins in Saudi Arabia and Hamilton finishes second, he could have 376.5 points, and Hamilton would have 361.5 points, a 15-point difference. This means that in order to win the championship, Hamilton would have to come in at 5th, at the very best, and also not earn any extra point in either race to win the championship. To put it short, Verstappen is quite comfortable, but Hamilton is determined to win. That's a wrap for Will Verstappen be leaving Red Bull? Do you think Verstappen will join another team in 2022? Let us know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I'll see you in the next one.